Welcome back to another BizBite episode of the eCommerce Badassery podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Chitillo-Coster. Do you have a Facebook group for your e-commerce business? If you do, keep listening. If not, check out episode 29 where I walk through why they're a good idea and how to decide what type of group is good for you, and then come back and listen to this one. You may have heard the news or experienced the notifications from groups you're in, but back in May, I think it was, Facebook started testing a new feature that would allow Facebook group hosts to tag everyone in their group at one time using the @everyone tag. I don't 100% know the timeline of this feature, and I don't think there was ever an official announcement. I couldn't find anything in Facebook's documentation. But word is starting to spread, and group hosts are starting to use it. If you're in the eCommerce Badassery Facebook group, you've probably experienced this once or twice. See, the thing about groups is, back in the day, the reach was always really good. Most people in the group would see your posts, you can create events and invite everyone, but then something changed, as it always does. For the eCommerce Badassery Facebook group, I really noticed it after we surpassed the 500 members mark. Everything started to dip. People were missing invites to and notifications for my live videos. They weren't seeing the content I posted, and it was just as frustrating for the members as it was for me. I was also buying a home and moving around the same time, so my participation in the group dwindled a bit. It was kind of the perfect storm. But now, when you create a post in the feed, you can add the @ symbol followed by the word everyone, and it essentially tags everyone in the group without you having to manually type them out. From a host perspective, this is awesome. But it didn't take long for some group hosts to abuse it and annoy a lot of people. So, when is the right time and how often is too often? Well, Facebook has some limitations on it by default. You can't use the tag more than once per day. But does that mean you should use it every day? Well, there are, of course, a few schools of thought here. Like I always say with email, if someone gets annoyed with your emails and unsubscribes, they probably weren't your customer anyway, and not to worry about it. But there is still a tipping point. And that's especially true with notifications on social media platforms. I think of it more like SMS than email because it's a lot more intrusive. In the eCommerce Badassery Facebook group, I only use it for really important things like live training events, which I'm doing less often now. And when I announced that I was moving the replay videos into the eCommerce Badassery vault so I could more easily share my free resources with you. Nicole Dietrich, our resident Facebook ad strategist, I think she's limiting it to once per week to start. Everyone's cadence is going to be different, but I do think daily is too often in most cases. I am in a few groups for product-based businesses, and admittedly, I have been getting pretty frustrated with the notifications that have been coming through. And that's the thing, most people are in more than just your group. So as the user, if you've got 3 groups that are tagging you every single day, it's not going to be long before it gets super annoying, especially when they're all just buy my shit posts. I haven't left any of these groups because I still want to know what's happening and I want to support small business whenever I can, but it has crossed my mind. So, when to tag and when not to tag? It's going to depend a little bit on your group, the expectations of the members, and the types of content you post, but I would try and only do it for those posts that truly matter to everyone. Things like surveys, product feedback, or changes in the group itself. Things that either bring the members into the process with you or are going to affect their experience. If you're doing a pre-launch for upcoming products, I would tag everyone to let them know about your early access email or SMS list, but I wouldn't necessarily tag everyone when you release those products. That also depends on how often you release new products, though. If it's just a new collection every season, that's one thing. But if you haphazardly release products every week or even multiple times a week, that could be too much. Ultimately, when you're creating posts, just stop for a second and ask yourself, do I really need to tag everyone for this? If I was just a member of this group, would I want to be tagged about this post? Is this post for them or for me? And just like I say with most things, let the data tell you if you're using it too much. People will often ask me, how many emails should I send per week? And generally, I say as many as your audience can tolerate. The data will tell you if your engagement is going down, if you're losing people, if they're not converting to sales, those are signs that it might be too much. But you do have to balance that with not everyone is your customer, and that's okay. I don't want you to be in fear of annoying your customers. I just want you to remember that your business is more about them and what your product can do for them versus you. And if you're not totally sure how the best way to implement it or how to not annoy your people, start by letting them know that it's a thing and let them know when and how you're going to start using it. Sometimes just making them aware of what to expect is enough to keep them from getting irritated. Then ease into it and see what the response is like. The unfortunate thing is, unlike email, you can't segment the everyone tag. It's everyone or no one. And honestly, from my own experience, even if you unfollow that group or you mute the notifications, it doesn't override the everyone tag for the user. So keep that in mind. If you are using this in your biz and you've found a cadence that works, please come and let me know on Instagram. I'm super curious to hear how it's being used and how it's all working out for you. And that's a wrap on another BizBite episode. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you on the flip side, friend.